This is how this is how the satellites would look if they were really in space, but they're not because they're fake. They don't exist.
Have you ever seen what a satellite is supposed to look like? You have computer graphics to show you what they look like. And satellites are supposed to be past low Earth orbit. Look at how far GPS satellites are supposed to be. There's even satellites in an orbital state in geosynchronous orbit that are very, very far away from the Earth. So not only are you looking at computer generated images right now, you're looking at computer generated images of the Earth. When satellites are supposed to be past low Earth orbit, wouldn't it be kind of cool to have a real picture of the Earth for these illustrations? Satellites are supposed to be past low Earth orbit, and by now there should be thousands of pictures of Earth from space. Why would you ever substitute that for fucking computer generated crap? Why are billions of people okay with these images and the lack of photos of Earth from space? Why can't we have a real picture of the Earth that is not supposed to be a composite? Why can't we have that? NASA gets billions of dollars. Is that really too much to ask? Now here's an image of the Earth that people use all the time. It is not even supposed to be real. It's a composite, and it's been shown how this is made. And there's several images from this composite model that are presented as images of the Earth from space. They're not even supposed to be real. They don't pretend that they are real, but they allow you to think they are real. People use this image a lot. Where are the pictures of Earth from space? You believe these satellites exist. Why can't you give me pictures of the Earth from space? They're fucking right there. They're old technology. They can't take a picture of the Earth? Your beloved satellites that you believe and you'll defend till the end of your life? You have no problem with no pictures of Earth from space existing? And this image is important. That picture of Earth is from Apollo 17, and you're showing it your entire life, and they still show it in news articles today, and they're going to continue to show this image in the news for the following decades to come. They're never going to stop showing you this image to represent Earth. They're not even talking about Apollo 17 in these articles. They use that image, the same image, which is in every single science book, the same image which you've been shown your entire life. They're going to continue to use it in news articles in the future. This is 2014. You're probably watching this in 2015, and you're still going to see this image all year long, and you're not going to think about it. It's from the 70s. It's like something you would see on a poster in that 70s show. Remember their clothing? How ridiculous they look in that show? That picture of Earth can be on a poster in their room because it's from Apollo 17. It is that old. Here's that composite again. I typed satellites. I didn't type bullshit composite image of the Earth. Why does that come up? They even search for that. Look at all this computer generated bullshit. Are you okay with believing bullshit? Because I have a lot of family that are perfectly fine believing bullshit. They don't care that it's not true. They want to believe it. The cartoons your children watch today are so idiotic, and they're designed that way on purpose. They want dumb sheep that can't figure out the world around them. Your children watch cartoons, they're entertained by cartoons, and you believe that cartoons are real life. You believe that this shit exists. When NASA films their spacewalks, they're done underwater. There's even bubbles in the water. And the Hubble Space Telescope which is supposed to be supplying you with data about the Big Bang, the universe, and galaxies and redshift, that does not exist in orbit because they performed these same fake spacewalks on a model of the Hubble Space Telescope. It is all fraud. There's that composite again. Even if you thought that was a real image of Earth from space, why would it keep coming up? Why one image? You believe in bullshit. Are you okay with that? Do you want to learn about the world around you? All you have to do is start looking at evidence. Just be like a detective. Think critically. Turn off the television. It is controlled. Learn about Freemasons and learn about the Jesuit order. This shit is history.
Now let's look at the contradiction, because if you actually start to watch this video, you're going to be interested. You're going to say, well, let me see if this guy's full of shit. You're going to jump on Wikipedia because that's the only source that you think is credible, and this is what they're going to tell you. Now, when it comes to the thermosphere, this is what they say. The highly diluted gas in this layer can reach 2,500 degrees Celsius during the day. Even though the temperature is so high, one would not feel warm in the thermosphere because it is so near vacuum that there is not enough contact with the few atoms of gas to transfer heat. A normal thermometer would read significantly below 0 degrees Celsius because the energy lost by thermal radiation would exceed the energy acquired from the atmospheric gas by direct contact. Now, if that's not a crock of bullshit, I don't know what is. I got a bridge to sell you. You know, does this even make any sense? So you mean to tell me that this layer of the atmosphere is as hot as a blast furnace, but it's actually not hot? It's actually below 0 degrees Celsius. This is what they're going to tell you. And now you're going to have to explain this to me. So before you come to me and tell me I'm crazy, before you come to me and tell me that I'm a troll and I'm looking for views, you're going to have to explain how the hell a layer of the atmosphere could be 2,500 degrees Celsius, but actually 0 degrees Celsius. Because if that's the case, then we shouldn't feel the heat from the sun. Because according to them, the sun is far out in the space. It's far out in the vacuum. So you have to explain to me, how do we feel the heat from the sun? Someone has to explain this. I'll wait. I'll wait for someone to explain this, because I know you guys are geniuses. You guys are intellectuals that's watching this video. You guys are smarter than I am, right? So you're going to have to explain to me how we feeling the heat from the sun. But here we have a layer of the atmosphere that's supposedly hot, but because it's in the vacuum, it's not hot.
wires, sometimes overhead and sometimes buried under the ground. As time went on and people found they could talk farther and hear better, more and more telephone calls were made. Telephone research men then had to find ways to make these wire pathways carry heavier traffic, ways to place more calls on each wire, yet keep the calls separate. This was done with what came to be known as carrier systems. It was first used on open wires, then on the pairs of wires inside the cables. As the need for still more calls developed, a wider electric highway was needed. A new type of line structure was found. It was given the name coaxial. Now, a coaxial is really a copper wire strung through the center of a copper tube. But a single pair of these coaxials will carry hundreds of telephone conversations at once. Put 8 coaxials into a cable, and you have a small, compact unit. More calls can be carried at one time through this coaxial cable than could be carried by all 3 of these large conventional cables. Telephone engineers realized that this broad communications highway called coaxial could also be used to carry television programs from city to city. Thousands of miles of coaxial cable stretched across the country now form an important part of America's long-distance telephone system and television networks. There is another method of carrying hundreds and hundreds of simultaneous telephone calls and also television programs. It's called radio relay. Back in 1920, the first radio telephone service in history was established from Catalina Island to the California mainland. Bell Telephone engineers continued their research into radio for telephone use. This brought to the public such things as overseas telephone service, calls to and from ships at sea, and many other applications of radio. Before World War II, we started using very short waves for telephone use between such places as Norfolk and Cape Charles, Boston and Provincetown. During the war, even shorter waves have come into use. And radio development for military purposes brought new techniques called microwaves. Following the war, these were applied to a microwave system from New York to Boston. Here's the way it worked. Microwaves shoot out like searchlight beams between transmitters set on high places. From New York, the beam is trained on Jackie Jones Mountain. Then it's picked up and relayed station by station to Boston. These microwave radio beams do about the same job in the air as the coaxials do underground. Carry hundreds of telephone calls at once, both ways, or carry the sight and sound waves of television. A good example of this is the Bell System's transcontinental microwave radio relay system, a chain of 107 microwave towers from coast to coast, designed to carry telephone messages and television. Well, there you have them, coaxial cable and radio relay, 2 new economical ways by which hundreds and hundreds of long-distance telephone calls and intercity television networks are provided. They are products of continuous research, development, and manufacture that will better serve the communication needs of the nation.
Once in a while I get people that that claim they don't believe in evolution. And my response generally is, so why not? Really, why not?
You guys believe 20 billion years ago there was a big bang where nothing exploded and produced everything. 4.6 billion years ago the earth cooled down, made a hard rocky crust. It rained on the rocks for millions of years, turned them into soup, and the soup came alive 3 billion years ago. Found somebody to marry, and something to eat, of course, and slowly evolved into everything we see today. There are some lies in our science books. Taught it for 15 years. Even though I'm not teaching it anymore, I still like to study. It's so many neat things to learn. We're going to cover some of that tonight. I'm not against science, I'm not against schools, I'm not against teachers. Because most of them don't know what they believe. You have to tell them. They teach the kids it all started with a Big Bang 20 billion years ago. What exploded? This is what the textbooks teach.
Before the Big Bang, there was nothing, literally nothing, an infinitesimal nugget of space. And then something happened, triggering the most colossal explosion in history.
Yes, boys and girls, you see, nothing exploded, and here we are. So I asked this professor if I could ask him some questions about the Big Bang. I said, where did all this matter come from? He said, well, we don't know that for sure. I said, well, sir, would you please tell me where the laws came from? The universe is run by laws, gravity, centrifugal force, inertia. Who gave the laws? He said, we don't know that either. I said, sir, could you tell me where the energy came from? You know, it takes energy to make a Big Bang. Who bought the gas to run this machine anyway? He said, we don't know that either. I said,
recognizing what an immense feat this is. Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world.
Because after I backed out of the hatch was closed. I was the last one to see the astronaut in it, okay? I can still, when the hatch was closed, I could look through the center window and see him in there.
And they were definitely inside.
Now, there's no question about it. I mean, if that isn't proof, I don't know what you can do.
Well, what do you think? Is Gunter telling the truth? Or were the astronauts really hidden in some underground bunker?
The last thing anybody wants now is an emergency. But like everything else, they're ready for that too.
Once the crew are on board, if it looks as if they're in danger, they get out and head down this tube, specially insulated against fire, and zigzagging down not to some point out and away from the rocket, but to an escape room exactly where you'd think it shouldn't be.
Three and a half minutes after they get the warning in the capsule, the crew could be down here in the blast escape room via that 200-foot escape tube, 40 feet below the base of the rocket. They find themselves in a totally rubber room, walls and floors, and they head for safety through a 6-inch steel door. Once they're behind that door, it doesn't matter what comes down this tube behind them. On this side of that door, the rarely seen blast escape room itself. It's totally isolated from everything around it by a series of 24 giant springs underneath the floor and shells all round it of steel, concrete and sand. It contains enough food, water and air for 20 people for up to 24 hours, and it's all around the edge. There are these foam rubber shock-absorbing seats, as you can see. The room is built to withstand the simultaneous explosion of every drop of fuel on a Saturn V. And in that event, strapped into your shock-absorbing seat, if your rocket did blow itself to bits 40 feet above your head, all you'd feel would be a mild rumble from somewhere up there.